A royal marriage alliance between Westeros and Southern Reach was proposed, but His Majesty couldn't bear the thought of the princess marrying the 80-year-old King Barton. He intended to choose one of the noble ladies to marry into Southern Reach in the princess's stead. For a time, the noble ladies in Capital City were all on edge. I, however, wasn't afraid at all, because I had been betrothed to the heir of Blackwood Estate since I was a child. Who knew that on the eve of our wedding ceremony, Julian Blackwood would suddenly marry his cousin, Luna Hart? I went to him to reason with him, but he looked at me with a justified expression. Serena is young. If she were chosen to marry that King Barton, her life would be ruined. Don't worry, I'll still marry you in 7 days. She'll be my wife, and you'll be my concubine. As long as you treat her well and don't make things difficult for her, I won't mistreat you either. Little did he know, the princess had already chosen me and personally appointed me to marry into Southern Reach in her place. I hadn't recovered from the shocking news of Julian Blackwood marrying Luna Hart when I received His Majesty's royal decree. I was to marry into Southern Reach in place of the princess. Mr. Clark refused to accept this and went to the imperial palace to beg the emperor to withdraw the decree, but this only incurred royal wrath, and he was given 20 lashes. Looking at Mr. Clark on the bed, drenched in cold sweat, looking as if he had aged 10 years overnight, and Mrs. Clark, who was weeping beside him, I knelt down with tears in my eyes. Mr. Clark, Mrs. Clark, I am willing to marry into Southern Reach in place of the princess. Mrs. Clark immediately rushed over and hugged me, crying her heart out. My Rose, how could I bear to let you marry that cruel, lecherous old beast? This is going to kill me. Mr. Clark's eyes were also red as he struggled to get up. No, I'll go to the imperial palace to beg the emperor to withdraw the decree, even if it means I give up this official position. Mr. Clark and Mrs. Clark had already done enough for me. I bowed deeply to them. I have made up my mind, Mr. Clark, Mrs. Clark, you don't need to worry about my affairs anymore. Even though Mr. Clark and Mrs. Clark were reluctant, the royal decree had been issued, and I had no choice but to marry. I was holding the royal decree that bestowed the title of princess upon me when someone hugged me from behind as soon as I stepped into my room. My dear Rose, don't be angry. I really only married Serena to help her. You know she's young and her health isn't good. If she were chosen to go to Southern Reach, she wouldn't survive. You're so kind, you'll understand me, right? Young? I was only a month older than Luna Hart. Besides, if he hadn't kept delaying our wedding ceremony, how could I have? Thinking of this, I took a deep breath and pushed him away. Heir, you are already a married man. It's not appropriate for you to be pulling and tugging like this where people can see us. Julian Blackwood's smile froze. Who doesn't know that we grew up together? You were always my intended wife. Let them watch if they want to, I'm not afraid. Wife. I curled my lips in a mocking smile. Heir must have forgotten that your wife is Luna Hart. Julian Blackwood paused, forcing a flattering smile. Rose, even though it's as a concubine, in my heart, you and she are the same. My feelings for you are still the same as before, and that will never change. No, his heart had already changed. Mr. Clark was a student of Julian Blackwood's grandfather, and our wedding was arranged by his grandfather. Since he was a child, he liked to call me sister, and would send me any interesting new items he acquired. He would proudly tell everyone that I was his future wife and that no one was allowed to bully me. After my coming-of-age ceremony, a man blocked my way in an alley and gave me a fragrant pouch to express his affection. Julian Blackwood ran over, slapped the fragrant pouch away, and even fought with the man. From then on, everyone knew that I was the person that Julian Blackwood cherished the most, and no one could touch or covet me. Until a year ago, Luna Hart, who had been frail since childhood and had been living with her maternal grandparents, returned to Capital City. As her cousin, his family told him to take good care of Luna Hart. He not only listened but also slowly turned his heart towards her. At first, I thought his care for Luna Hart was just the affection of a cousin for his sister, and even though I was jealous, I couldn't say much. It wasn't until he suddenly married Luna Hart before our wedding ceremony that I realized that the Julian Blackwood who had sworn never to let me suffer even the slightest grievance had long disappeared. Thinking of this, I smiled bitterly. It's too late. Even if I were willing to marry him, His Majesty and the princess would never agree. Julian Blackwood thought I was still angry about him marrying Luna Hart, and his face fell. Amelia Clark, I've already humbled myself to coax you like this. What else do you want? Besides, who else are you going to marry if you don't marry me? Don't tell me you want to go to Southern Reach and be the queen of that old man who doesn't know how many days he has left to live. Hit where it hurts, my expression wasn't good either. That's my business, and it has nothing to do with you. Julian Blackwood's face darkened even more upon hearing this. Humph, I'd like to see who else you can marry without me. Watching him walk away with a flick of his sleeves, my heart felt like it was being cut by a knife. Every breath I took seemed to exhaust all my strength. I thought that was the end of Julian Blackwood and me. Who knew that the next day, Julian Blackwood would suddenly bring Luna Hart to my door? Mr. Clark was bedridden, and Mrs. Clark was still taking care of him, so I had no but to reluctantly go out to meet them. As soon as she saw me, Luna Hart enthusiastically took my hand. Sister, I've wanted to meet you for a long time, but my cousin was afraid I would offend you and wouldn't let me come. As soon as Luna Hart approached me, I smelled a fresh and pleasant fragrance. I suddenly remembered that I seemed to have smelled the scent on Julian Blackwood before. Looking down, I saw a delicately embroidered fragrant pouch hanging from her waist, and the scent was coming from the fragrant pouch. I subconsciously looked at Julian Blackwood. He used to wear a fragrant pouch embroidered with silk tree flowers on his waist, which he had pestered me for a whole month to make for him. In Westeros, giving fragrant pouches is a sign of affection. Now, the silk tree flower fragrant pouch on his waist had been replaced with a trumpet vine fragrant pouch that was exactly the same as Luna Hart's. Noticing my gaze, Luna Hart curled her lips. Sister also likes this fragrant pouch? I made it myself. If sister likes it, I'll make another one for you. Julian Blackwood subconsciously touched his waist, looking guilty. I took in his actions and smiled mockingly. There's no need. What brings you here today? Before I could react, Luna Hart suddenly knelt down with a plop. I was startled. Julian Blackwood also suddenly stepped forward to help her up. Serena, what are you doing? The ground is cold, get up quickly. She stubbornly looked at me. Sister, I know you're still angry about my cousin marrying me, but don't worry. In the Blackwood estate, you'll be the mistress of the house. I only ask that you give me a place to stay. I frowned. There's no need. His Majesty has already. Amelia Clark, Serena has already conceded to this point. What else do you want? Julian Blackwood didn't give me a chance to speak. He held Luna Hart tightly. Serena, don't worry. Now that I've married you, I'll be responsible for you. The heir's wife of Blackwood Estate will only ever be you. Luna Hart burst into tears in his arms upon hearing this. I looked at the scene with a complicated expression, and a touch of bitterness welled up in my throat. He had promised me more than once that he would never have a second thought and would never take a concubine. Now, his heart not only belonged to someone else, but he also wanted me to be his concubine. Looking at the two people hugging each other tightly, I said coldly, "Don't worry, I'm getting married in a few days. My wedding to Julian Blackwood is cancelled." Julian Blackwood suddenly raised his head, looking at me with a face full of astonishment. Amelia Clark, what nonsense are you talking about again? Now, all the eligible men in Capital City are already married. Who else would marry you besides me? Luna Hart also said with tears in her eyes, "Yes, sister, don't be angry with my cousin because of me. If you really can't tolerate me, then after the royal marriage alliance is over, my cousin and I can get a divorce." Julian Blackwood probably didn't expect her to say that, and he hugged her tightly with heartache. "Serena, you're already my wife. Don't say such silly things in the future." "But." "No buts." Julian Blackwood looked at me coldly. "Amelia Clark, Serena is already my wife. If you dare to bully her in the future, I will never let you off lightly." After saying this, Julian Blackwood picked up Luna Hart and left the Lee family estate without looking back. I almost laughed out of anger. But thinking that they would soon know that what I had said just now was true, I didn't pay any more attention to it. Seeing that there were only 5 days left before I had to leave for Southern Reach, I still had many things to prepare. Julian Blackwood and Luna Hart didn't come to my door again. 2 days later, Mrs. Clark heard that a monk had come to Cloud Peak Temple and that his fortune-telling was particularly accurate, so she dragged me to Cloud Peak Temple to have the Master-monk tell my fortune. I wasn't very interested. I had heard that King Barton of Southern Reach was already 80 years old and was a cruel and bloodthirsty tyrant who treated women as playthings. If it weren't for the frequent border wars, His Majesty wouldn't have thought of the idea of a royal marriage alliance. It was just that he couldn't bear to let his own daughter marry over, so he thought of the children of the court officials. Westeros and Southern Reach had always had many conflicts, and I was going to marry such a tyrant who was already in his twilight years. I could guess my fate without having to have my fortune told. But I couldn't bear to go against Mrs. Clark's good intentions. As soon as I arrived at Cloud Peak Temple, I saw a long line in front of the fortune-telling stall. After finally getting my turn, the Master-monk suddenly looked at me without saying a word for a long time. My heart instantly rose to my throat, and I had already thought of the worst possible outcome. But then I heard the Master-monk say with a profound expression, "Girl, you have an extremely noble destiny. In the future, you will definitely marry a satisfactory husband, have a house full of children and grandchildren, and have a complete and fulfilling life." I was stunned. King Barton was already 80 years old. How could he be considered a satisfactory husband, and how could I have a house full of children and grandchildren? Before I could figure it out, an excited voice suddenly came from behind me. "Sister, are you also here to have the Master-monk tell your fortune?" I subconsciously turned my head and saw Luna Hart and Julian Blackwood. I didn't know if it was just my imagination, but Julian Blackwood seemed to be in a good mood. Luna Hart shook my arm. "Congratulations, sister. We heard what the Master-monk said just now. He said you would marry a satisfactory husband and have a house full of children and grandchildren." Julian Blackwood's smile deepened upon hearing this. I was speechless. Did he think that the satisfactory husband the Master-monk was talking about was him? Luna Hart sat down in front of the stall. "Master-monk, quickly tell my fortune too." The Master-monk glanced at her and shook his head with a sigh. "Benefactor, your obsession is too deep. I hope that you will do more good deeds in the future and not be devoured by your obsession and desires." Luna Hart's smile froze. Julian Blackwood quickly pulled her up. All right, our Serena is so kind-hearted. In the future, everything will definitely go smoothly for her, and we will be together for a long, long time." Only then did Luna Hart smile contentedly, and there was a bit more smugness in her eyes when she looked at me. Julian Blackwood also looked at me. "Rose, I have something to say to you later." But I had nothing I wanted to say to him. Mrs. Clark came out after burning incense and was busy asking me how my fortune-telling went. I told her the Master-monk's words truthfully, and a hint of a smile finally appeared on her face, which had been gloomy for days. Who knew that Julian Blackwood would break into my room that night? "Rose, I told you to wait for me. Why did you leave on your own?" I tried my best to suppress my impatience. Heir, is there something you need? Upon hearing this, Julian Blackwood took out a red wedding gown and handed it to me. Serena asked me to give this to you. Originally, a concubine isn't qualified to wear red, but Serena is generous and doesn't care about these things with you. She asked me to give you this wedding gown. This is the one she wore on her wedding ceremony day. 3 days later, you can wear it and bow to me. Looking at the wedding gown in my hand, I laughed out of anger. Was letting me wear the wedding gown that Luna Hart had worn on my wedding day an insult to me or her generosity? I threw the wedding gown back at him with a cold face. I said that my wedding to you has been cancelled. The person I'm going to marry isn't you. Julian Blackwood's face darkened upon hearing this, but then his eyes caught sight of something out of the corner of his eye. An elaborate wedding gown embroidered with a phoenix emblem was hanging on the rack. Only the princess and imperial concubines could wear this kind of gown. The corners of Julian Blackwood's mouth slowly turned up. So you had already prepared a wedding gown. It's just that this gown is too elaborate and doesn't comply with the rules. You should still wear this one. As he said this, he stuffed the wedding gown into my hands once again. I looked at him with amusement. Heir, do you really not know who the noble lady is who's marrying the King Barton of Southern Reach in place of the princess? Julian Blackwood was stunned for a moment. Why would I ask about things that have nothing to do with me? I took the wedding gown and looked at him meaningfully. It's nothing. You'll know soon enough. Julian Blackwood didn't hear what I said clearly. Seeing that I had accepted the wedding gown, he smiled contentedly. Rose, don't worry. We grew up together. Even if you're a concubine, I'll treat you well. In the future, when you have children, I'll promote you to the position of equal wife. I nodded perfunctorily. After Julian Blackwood left, I bid farewell to Mr. Clark and Mrs. Clark, packed my things, and entered the Palace-Imperial Palace. As a princess for a royal marriage alliance, I would be marrying from the Palace-Imperial Palace. That day, the wedding convoy followed me out of the capital city with great fanfare. I spotted a wedding procession to the left front, and Julian Blackwood was sitting on his horse, looking proud and spirited in his wedding clothes. I hoped he would still be able to smile later. The wedding convoy arrived at the Lee family estate, but no one came to answer the door for a long time. Just as Julian Blackwood was getting impatient, the steward walked UT holding a wedding gown. It was the one that Luna Hart had used to humiliate me, the one she had given me. Julian Blackwood's face darkened when he saw it. Where's Amelia Clark? What does it mean to bring out this wedding gown when she's not showing herself? The steward looked at him with confusion. Miss has already married into Southern Reach in place of the princess. Heir, don't you know? What did you say? Julian Blackwood was shocked and almost fell off his horse. His face was pale, and he roared, Impossible. You must be lying to me. Bring Amelia Clark out here. I want to hear it from her own mouth. The steward lowered his head and wiped away tears. My miss is unlucky. 7 days ago, His Majesty issued a royal decree, bestowing the title of princess upon my miss and marrying her to that King Barton. She entered the Palace-Imperial Palace 3 days ago and must already be on her way by now. Julian Blackwood felt a darkness descend before his eyes. He suddenly remembered that 3 days ago, Amelia Clark had asked him if he knew who the noble lady was who was marrying King Barton. What did he say at the time? He said that it was none of his business and that he didn't need to ask. He also remembered the wedding procession he had seen when he came to the Lee family estate just now. He panicked and whipped his horse around, wanting to chase after her. But a servant from the estate suddenly ran over. Heir, something bad has happened. Heir's wife has fainted. Please go back and take a look. Julian Blackwood didn't care about that. He turned his horse around and was about to chase after her. but that person stubbornly stood in front of the horse. Heir's wife is your own cousin. If something happens to her, you will definitely regret it. Julian Blackwood gripped his horsewhip, staring at the direction of the city gates in the distance. After a long time, he gritted his teeth. Return to the estate. Southern Reach was more than 1,000 miles away from Westeros. I only hoped that this journey would be slower so that I could escape for a little while longer. But the carriage rocked and swayed for half a month before finally arriving at Southern Reach. Thinking of that 80-year-old King Barton, who was already half buried in the ground, my heart instantly turned cold. After the carriage stopped, seeing that I was reluctant to get out, the official urged me several times. Please, princess, get out of the carriage. I closed my eyes and slowly got out of the carriage after I was mentally prepared. Before long, a pair of large hands reached out to me. I subconsciously placed my hand on them, but then I saw that the other party had no intention of letting go. I wanted to pull my hand back, but the other party gripped it even tighter. I frowned, thinking that this was some custom in Southern Reach, so I let him hold it. That man led me all the way into the bridal chamber. The officials and handmaiden had all retreated, and the room was so quiet that you could hear a pin drop. I was so nervous that I was sweating. The next second, the bridal veil on my head was suddenly lifted. I subconsciously raised my head and met a pair of deep eyes with a hint of a smile. The man's face was handsome, more valiant and extraordinary than any man from Westeros I had ever seen. I blinked, thinking that I was seeing things. There was no way the 80-year-old King Barton could be the man in front of me, who looked to be, at most, in his late 20s. Seeing me staring blankly at him, Alexander Moore raised an eyebrow. What's wrong? Are you disappointed to see me? I stared at him warily. Who are you? Alexander Moore laughed. The husband died, and the son took over. From now on, you will be this king's queen. Princess, do you have any objections? I widened my eyes in surprise. What did he say? King Barton was dead, and the person I was marrying now was him? Seeing that I wasn't speaking, Alexander Moore gently raised my chin. Princess, you haven't answered me yet. Are you willing to be this king's queen? I nodded vigorously, and a hint of joy even rose in my heart. Marrying him was better than marrying that lecherous, tyrannical old King Barton. Seeing me nod, Alexander Moore finally released me with satisfaction. Later, I found out that the person I married was actually Alexander Moore, the 6th Prince of Southern Reach. He was the god of war in the hearts of the people of Southern Reach. It was because of him that Westeros had been retreating steadily, and they had been forced to come up with the idea of a royal marriage alliance. I didn't know whether I should be angry or hate him. Fortunately, Alexander Moore treated me pretty well. Knowing that I wasn't used to the food in Southern Reach, he found a cook on the Westeros border to be responsible for my daily meals. The people of Southern Reach weren't as scary as I had imagined either. They weren't all barbarians who drank blood and were bloodthirsty. They were both respectful and enthusiastic towards me, the queen from another country. During this time, I also heard a lot about Alexander Moore. Alexander Moore's mother was a Han Chinese from a village on the Westeros border. Because of her beauty, she was abducted and became a concubine of King Barton. Because of his bloodline, Alexander Moore was often isolated and bullied by the other princes when he was young, and the old King Barton didn't like this son either. At the age of 14, he joined the army and gradually rose to where he was today through his military achievements. The clan members both respected and feared him. There were even rumors that the old King Barton had died at his hands. Even his brothers had been liquidated by him, some were dead, and some were imprisoned. But after spending time with him, I realized that he wasn't as scary as the rumors said. Perhaps it was because he had half Han Chinese blood in him, but I felt close to him whenever I okayed at him. He even looked a bit familiar, but I couldn't remember where I had seen him before. In the blink of an eye, I had been married to Alexander Moore for 2 months. I also gradually got used to the climate and life here. Alexander Moore was very busy, but he would take the time to be with me every day. Knowing that I was homesick, he would sometimes take me to the Westeros border for a walk, just like an ordinary couple. At this time, I would always remember what the Master-Monk had told me that day, that I would marry a satisfactory husband and have a house full of children and grandchildren. I didn't believe it at the time, but now I knew that what the Master-Monk said was true. That day, when Alexander Moore said he was going to take me back to Westeros to visit my family, I couldn't believe it. I looked at him excitedly. Really? You're going to take me back to Westeros? Alexander Moore pinched my face with amusement. Southern Reach has been invited by the Emperor of the Great Chi to attend the Westeros Biennial Spring Festival. I'll take you back to take a look. When I married out in place of the princess, I had already prepared myself for the fact that I would never be able to return to my homeland in this lifetime. I didn't expect the surprise to come so quickly. I excitedly planted a kiss on his face. Alexander Moore, thank you. You're so good to me. Alexander Moore's eyes darkened, and he carried me to the bed. Then thank me with your actions. My face flushed, and I kissed him proactively. Thinking that I would be able to see Mr. Clark and Mrs. Clark soon, I was so excited that I couldn't sleep for several nights. I also busied myself with preparing many Southern Reach specialties to bring to Mr. Clark and Mrs. Clark. Mr. Clark and Mrs. Clark would definitely be happy for me if they knew that I had married a satisfactory husband. One sunny morning, Alexander Moore and I embarked on the road to Westeros. Unlike my state of mind when I left. When I was prepared to die, I was filled with joy and contentment this time. Alexander Moore's carriage was extremely fast, and we arrived at Westeros in less than 10 days. He went to the Imperial Palace to pay his respects to His Majesty first, while I returned to the Lee family estate to see Mr. Clark and Mrs. Clark and wait for him there. Mr. Clark and Mrs. Clark had heard about Alexander Moore and were so happy that they were crying with joy. They also felt sorry that I had been traveling for so long and let me go back to my room to rest while Alexander Moore wasn't there yet. I was sleeping soundly when I was suddenly awakened by a rustling sound. Thinking that Alexander Moore had returned, I excitedly got up, but when I opened the door, I saw that face that I never wanted to see again in this lifetime. At the moment our eyes met, Julian Blackwood couldn't help but turn red. Rose. I frowned. How did you get in here? Julian Blackwood's expression froze. That's not important. Why didn't you tell me that His Majesty had bestowed the title of princess upon you and let you marry King Barton? Do you know how much I've missed you these past few months? I couldn't wait to rush to Southern Reach and snatch you back. He actually had the nerve to ask me that. If he had put even a little bit of thought into me, I wouldn't have only found out the truth from other people on the day I married into Southern Reach. Seeing that I wasn't speaking, a trace of pain flashed in Julian Blackwood's eyes. Rose, how have you been doing during this time? I told him the truth. Very well. So well that sometimes I felt like I was dreaming, afraid that I would wake up one day and find that the person lying next to me wasn't Alexander Moore, but that old, ugly King Barton. Julian Blackwood didn't believe me, though. He grabbed me and looked at me with concern. Rose, don't lie to me. I heard that King Barton is cruel and merciless and that he likes to torture young girls. Lee. You. He's already 80 years old. How could you possibly be doing well married to him? Don't worry, I've already thought it through. When King Barton dies, I'll find a way to bring you back from Southern Reach. It seemed that Julian Blackwood didn't know about Alexander Moore yet. I scoffed and pushed him away. I'm afraid I'll have to disappoint you. My husband is in good health. He might still be alive when you're dead. Julian Blackwood thought I was just saying the opposite out of anger and looked at me hesitantly. Rose, are you still angry with me? I know that me marrying Serena made you very unhappy, but I really only treated her as a sister. I just wanted to help her. I didn't know that the person the princess had chosen was you. Don't worry. Even though you've been married before, I won't despise you. When I bring you back from Southern Reach, I'll marry you. Marry me? Looking at Julian Blackwood, who was full of confidence, I didn't know whether to say he was naive or that he was thinking too highly of himself. From the moment he married Luna Hart, we were no longer possible. Besides, there was now a Westeros and Southern Reach separating me and him. I looked at him coldly. Julian Blackwood, my husband and I are very much in love. Don't ever say the words marry me again. Also, if there's nothing else, you should leave quickly. My husband will be back soon. Julian Blackwood was stunned upon hearing this. He looked at me in disbelief. Rose, if you don't marry me, do you really want to stay in that uncivilized barbarian land and live a miserable life? I rolled my eyes and didn't bother to say anything more to him. I was about to call someone to kick him out when I suddenly caught sight of a familiar figure in the distance. I excitedly wanted to run over, but Julian Blackwood grabbed my wrist. Rose, don't say such silly things anymore. I said I would marry you, and I will never break my promise. As soon as he finished speaking, Alexander Moore had already walked up behind him and kicked him to the ground. He then pulled me over and looked at him with displeasure. How dare you? What do you want to do to my queen? As the heir of Blackwood Estate, no one had ever dared to treat him like this. Julian Blackwood was about to get angry when he heard this, but then he looked at me in astonishment. Rose, what did he say? What queen? I curled my lips. Let me introduce you. This is my husband, the current king of Southern Reach, Alexander Moore. Julian Blackwood's eyes widened. How is that possible? Isn't the King Barton 80 years old? How could it be him, Rose? You're lying to me, right? Hearing how he addressed me, Alexander Moore narrowed his eyes. Without saying a word, he coldly said to the guards behind him, "Throw him out." 2 guards immediately stepped forward and grabbed him, but Julian Blackwood was still in disbelief. Rose, what's going on? How could the King Barton be him, Rose? Before he could finish speaking, the guards had already dragged him out with swift movements. Soon, the news that Alexander Moore had succeeded to the throne as the new king of Southern Reach spread throughout the court. No one in Westeros didn't praise my good fortune. They had thought that I would either die or be skinned alive, but they had never expected me to encounter such a good thing as King Barton's death and the new king of Southern Reach's succession to the throne. The new king of Southern Reach was also so young and handsome, causing many girls in Westeros to feel a flutter in their hearts. A few days later, the princess suddenly sent someone to say that she wanted to see me. I entered the Palace-Imperial Palace in a daze, and when she saw me, she sighed with relief. Seeing that you're doing well now, I can finally rest assured. I was stunned for a moment. What does the princess mean by this? The princess sighed. Now that things have come to this, I don't mind telling you it wasn't me who chose you for the royal marriage alliance, but Alexander Moore. He personally requested you. What? Seeing my bewildered expression, the princess smiled. When Westeros soundly defeated Southern Reach, Alexander Moore was the one who proposed peace talks. The only condition was that you marry King Barton and become the Queen of Southern Reach. I never imagined he was asking for you for himself. Thinking of Alexander Moore's indulgence and care for me during this time, and that inexplicable sense of familiarity, I couldn't restrain myself any longer. I couldn't wait to go back and ask him what was really going on. After hastily bidding farewell to the princess, I strode out. Just as the Imperial Palace gates were in sight, Julian Blackwood suddenly appeared and blocked my path. I impatiently raised my eyelids and glanced at him. Get lost. Don't bother me. Julian Blackwood's smile froze on his face. His eyes visibly reddened, and his voice trembled slightly as he spoke. Amelia Clark, I regret it. If I had married you sooner, you wouldn't have married someone else. I only felt sarcasm. What's the use of saying this now? Julian Blackwood's eyes lit up. Amelia Clark, what I said that day still stands. As long as you're willing, I can take you away at any time. He can't even enter Southern Reach, yet he's still daydreaming about taking me away. I looked him up and down disdainfully. Julian Blackwood, you've seen it yourself. My husband is the current King Barton, King of Southern Reach. He treats me very well. Why would I leave him to go with you? Julian Blackwood, upon hearing this, shouted unwillingly, but the person you love is me, isn't it? I laughed in anger. What do I love about you? Your selfishness? Your arrogance? Or the way you repeatedly humiliated me for other women, forcing me to marry you as a secondary wife? Julian Blackwood, tell me, what do you have that's worth me loving? Julian Blackwood's eyes liquored. Enough. I don't want to hear it. Julian Blackwood, if you don't want me to hate you, then stop pestering me. After saying that, I turned to leave, and Julian Blackwood chased after me unwillingly. Just as I exited the Imperial Palace, I saw Luna Hart standing not far away, glaring at me with hatred in her eyes. Amelia Clark, you're already married. Why are you still trying to steal my cousin? I was speechless. Are you blind? Can't you see that he's the one pestering me? Luna Hart said with a straight face, you've already married into Southern Reach. Why did you come back? If you hadn't come back, he wouldn't be like this now. I didn't realize that I needed her permission to come home. Julian Blackwood said with a dark face, shut up. Amelia Clark, don't listen to her. I've already decided to divorce her. In my heart, the person I love has always been you. As soon as Luna Hart heard this, she pounced forward and grabbed him. No, cousin. How can you treat me like this? You said you would take responsibility for me. Julian Blackwood pushed her away and vented all his resentment on her. You still dare to speak? If it weren't for you, Amelia Clark would have been my wife long ago. It's all because of you. It's all your fault. The two argued more and more intensely, and it looked like they were about to fight. I wasn't in the mood to watch the drama. Taking advantage of the fact that he was being held back by Luna Hart, I returned to the Lee family estate without looking back. But Alexander Moore wasn't at the Lee family estate. He didn't return until evening. I struck a pose of questioning him. Alexander Moore, are you hiding something from me? He was stunned for a moment. What are you referring to? I put my hands on my hips. Don't even think about lying to me. The princess told me everything. She said you were the one who specifically requested the royal marriage alliance, so I could become your queen. Alexander Moore didn't expect me to ask about this. He didn't deny it and softly said, yes. My face was full of doubt. Why? Have we met somewhere before? Alexander Moore nodded. That's right. We have met. Even though I had already guessed it, I couldn't help but be surprised. When? Why don't I have any memory of it? Alexander Moore looked at me amusingly. 5 years ago, I was ordered to come to Westeros to gather intelligence. I was ambushed and accidentally broke into your lakeside retreat. You were the one who saved me. When he said that, I remembered. It was summer at the time, and I was at my lakeside retreat for a summer retreat. A man covered in blood broke in. I was startled. But seeing that he was seriously injured, I still asked someone to call a doctor for him. After waking up, the man said that he had encountered robbers on the mountain and was injured by them. I believed him and allowed him to recuperate at the lakeside retreat for a few days. Later, the man suddenly disappeared, leaving behind a silver coin in the room when he left. I didn't think much about it, and I didn't know that the man was actually the son of the King Barton of the enemy country, Southern Reach. I looked at him in shock. So that man was you? Alexander Moore nodded. If it weren't for you, I might not be alive today. I didn't know what to say for a moment. If I had known his identity at the time, I probably wouldn't have saved him, and I wouldn't have become his queen. Alexander Moore hugged me and gently swayed me. Amelia Clark, I married you not only because I love you, but also because I don't want to see the borders erupt in war again. Westeros and Southern Reach have been fighting for so many years, and only the common people suffer. If this matter can be resolved through a royal marriage alliance, it is fortunate for both of us. It wasn't that I didn't understand the stakes involved, and besides, I didn't blame him in the first place. Alexander Moore didn't hide anything from me, and admitted that he killed the old King Barton. During his reign, the old King Barton had plundered the people's wealth and beautiful women for his own enjoyment, and he often beat palace servants to death. He was a veritable tyrant. His death was welcomed by the people. If I had married him, I would have died countless times already. Thinking of this, I couldn't help but feel a lingering fear. Later, I heard that Julian Blackwood and Luna Hart had fought at the Imperial Palace gate that day. Many people saw it with their own eyes, and the Blackwood estate became a joke in the capital city for a time. However, I had no intention of paying attention to them. The spring festival was coming to an end, and Alexander Moore and I were about to leave. Before leaving, I went to Cloud Peak Temple to see the monk and offer gratitude. But before I could see the monk, a cloud of white smoke suddenly appeared before my eyes, and I instantly lost consciousness. When I woke up again, I was in a derelict chapel. My whole body was limp and weak. Awake? Hearing the voice, I suddenly looked up and saw Luna Hart standing in front of me with a bottle in her hand. Her eyes were bloodshot, her expression was numb, and she looked very strange. I subconsciously backed away. Luna Hart, what do you want? Luna Hart stared at me intently, acting like a madwoman. Amelia Clark, why does everyone like you? Why are you so happy, while I have nothing? Even cousin is going to divorce me for you. Why? I was afraid of provoking her, so I didn't dare to say a word. My eyes quickly scanned my surroundings, wondering where she had brought me. Seeing that I wasn't speaking, Luna Hart suddenly grabbed my hair and said in a cold voice, "What do you think, if you were violated and lost your purity, would they still like you so much?" I was startled. I didn't expect that she had such a plan, and I struggled violently. Luna Hart, if you let me go now, I can pretend that nothing happened. She laughed loudly upon hearing this. Let you go? Amelia Clark, don't dream. After saying that, she walked to the door. Two beggars suddenly appeared from who knows where. She tossed them a silver coin. She's yours. Take good care of her. The two of them looked at me lecherously upon hearing this. I desperately shrunk back. Don't come over here. I'm the Queen of Southern Reach. If you dare to touch me, my husband will definitely not let you off. The two of them looked at each other, and both hesitated. Luna Hart was so angry that she jumped up and down when she saw this. What are you doing? Hurry up and do it. I'll reward you handsomely after it's done. The two of them no longer hesitated at all when they heard this. Dirty hands reached out towards me and tore off my clothes. I screamed in fright. Don't touch me. I have money. I'll give you as much as you want. But the two beggars were fascinated by the beauty before them. Beauty, let us take good care of you. Tears could no longer be restrained and rolled down from my eyes as I struggled desperately. Get lost. Don't touch me. Just as those two pairs of dirty hands were about to reach into my clothes, Alexander Moore broke in with his men with a bang. Seeing this scene, he radiated coldness and killed the two beggars with one slash. Afterwards, Alexander Moore took off his clothes and draped them over me, and his hands trembled uncontrollably as he held me. Amelia Clark, don't be afraid. I'm here. I snuggled in his arms and couldn't help but cry out loud. Julian Blackwood also came. He slapped Luna Hart hard across the face. You crazy woman, what do you want to do to Amelia Clark? Luna Hart fell to the ground and laughed wildly. Don't you all like her? I just want to ruin her, ha ha ha. Alexander Moore picked me up and looked down at her, his eyes as cold as ice. Take this crazy woman back to await her punishment. Afterwards, I had nightmares for several nights in a row. Alexander Moore stayed by my side, not leaving for even a moment. Later, I found out that I and the handmaiden were drugged that day. After waking up and not seeing me, the handmaiden went to Alexander Moore as soon as possible. Alexander Moore encountered Julian Blackwood while searching with his men. He discovered that Luna Hart was acting suspiciously and followed her here. If they hadn't arrived in time, I probably would have. Every time I thought of this, I was filled with fear. Luna Hart intended to murder the Queen of Southern Reach and sabotage the royal marriage alliance. Not to mention Alexander Moore, even the Emperor of the Great She would not let her off. But before the Emperor could punish her, Luna Hart had already scared herself to death. The Blackwood estate was also implicated, with promotions and salaries being reduced, and Julian Blackwood's position as heir almost wasn't secured. He also had no face to see me again. On the day I left Westeros, Julian Blackwood watched me from afar in the crowd. I pretended not to notice and got into the carriage with Alexander Moore. Although this trip to Westeros wasn't very pleasant, Alexander Moore, afraid that I would miss my family, ordered people to open up the Yuan Passage, shortening the journey from Southern Reach to Westeros to 7 days. He also encouraged the people of Yuan to intermarry and opened up trade routes, benefiting the people of both countries. And this was what Alexander Moore and I wanted to see. From then on, the world was at peace, and the people lived and worked in peace and contentment.